Imagine a sound so beautiful that the instant you heard it, you would do anything to get closer. You would let go of the helm. You would go over the side. You would swim toward it through black, freezing water until your arms gave out and the sea closed over your head, and you would go down smiling, certain it was worth it. Now here is the part that should frighten you. That sound is not a trick. It is not a lie sung to drown you. It is the truth. It is the answer to every question you have ever been afraid to ask, finally spoken out loud, and it would still kill you. Nearly 3,000 years ago, in the oldest adventure story we still have, a man sailed straight toward that sound on purpose. His name was Odysseus, king of Ithaca, the cleverest man in the Greek world, trying for 10 long years to get home from a war. And in the 12th book of Homer's Odyssey, the witch Circe warns him about what is waiting on the water ahead. The Sirens. You think you know what the Sirens are. Beautiful women on a rock, singing a pretty song, luring sailors to their deaths for, what? Love, lust, a pretty voice. That is the cartoon. That is not what Homer wrote. Listen to what the Sirens actually offer. In the poem, they call Odysseus by name, and they sing him this: "We know everything. We know all that the Greeks and the Trojans suffered in the war at Troy. And we know all things that come to pass upon the fruitful earth." That is the lure, not a body. Knowledge. Everything that has ever happened. Everything that is happening now. Every answer to every question you have ever been afraid to ask. The Sirens promise to tell you the truth about all of it. And here's the detail Homer puts in that should make your skin go cold. The Sirens sit in a green meadow by the sea, and all around them, piled in heaps, are the bones of the men who came to listen. Rotting bodies, the skin shriveling on them in the sun. Every single person who ever sailed close enough to finally hear the answer died there, on the grass, still reaching for it. So this is not a story about resisting temptation. We have 1,000 of those. This is a story about a temptation almost no one even recognizes as dangerous. The desire to know, the need to understand, the hunger at the very center of you to finally have the truth and be done with the not knowing. That hunger is the thing on the rocks, and it eats people alive. Now watch what Circe tells Odysseus to do, because it is one of the strangest pieces of advice in all of literature. She does not tell him to avoid the Sirens. She tells him there are 2 ways to get past them, and only 2. The first is for the crew. Take beeswax, she says, soften it in your hands and plug their ears. Every man. Seal them shut so they cannot hear a single note. Let them row past deaf, eyes forward, knowing nothing of what they are passing. They will survive, and they will never know what they missed. But Odysseus does not want that. Of course he does not. He is the man who has to know. So Circe gives him the second way, the dangerous one. If you must hear it, she says, then have your men tie you to the mast. Bind you hand and foot, upright, to the wood. And no matter what you scream, no matter how you beg, they must not untie you. If you plead to be released, they are to bind you tighter. And that is exactly what happens. They reach the island. The wind dies. The sea goes flat and silent. The crew, ears full of wax, row on. And Odysseus, lashed to the mast, hears it, and it destroys him. He says later that his heart was bursting to listen. He twists against the ropes. He shouts to his men to set him free, to turn the ship, his whole being straining toward that voice that is finally going to tell him everything. And his crew, hearing nothing, just rowing, lean over and pull the ropes tighter and tighter until the island falls behind them and the song fades and he can breathe again. He survived, but understand what it cost. He is the only man in the story who hears the truth offered, feels its full and unbearable pull, and lives. and he can only do it in chains. If this all sounds familiar, it should. Because this is not just a Greek story, it is the oldest story we have. Go back to the very beginning of the Bible, to a garden and a tree and a voice. And what does that voice promise the first humans? To get them to eat the one fruit that will kill them, not pleasure, knowledge. Your eyes will be opened, the serpent says, and you will be like God, knowing everything, knowing good and evil, the whole of it. It is the same song, the promise that you can finally know what only God is supposed to know. And in that story too, the answer comes with a price, and the price is death. 3,000 years, two completely different cultures, and the same warning, over and over. The deadliest temptation a human being faces is not sin in the ordinary sense. It is the craving to tear the veil all the way down and see everything behind it, to end the mystery, to know. And now, be honest, because here is where it turns on you. Part of you thinks the men with wax in their ears are the cowards, because what kind of life is that? To sail through the one stretch of ocean where the truth is actually being spoken aloud, and to plug your ears and row, deaf on purpose, safe and stupid and untouched. Isn't the whole glory of being human that we refuse to do that? Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living. We tell stories about Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods and was tortured forever for it, and we make him the hero. We admire the ones who had to know, who reached for the forbidden thing, who would rather burn with the answer than be comfortable without it. That is the case for untying the rope. The desire to know is the best thing in us. To muffle it is a kind of death too, just a quieter one. And yet, the shore is covered in bones. Everyone who got close enough, who actually heard the whole song unbound, who reached the answer, is dead in the grass. Maybe some truths really cannot be survived by a creature like you. Maybe there are questions that, fully answered, would simply stop you. The way a current stops a swimmer who has gone out too far to come back. So look again at what Odysseus actually does, because it is neither of the easy options. He does not plug his ears, and he does not leap into the water. He stays bound to the mast. He hears the whole terrible song. He feels every ounce of its pull. He wants the answer with his entire body, enough to beg, enough to fight his own crew. And he does not get it. He sails past it, aching, alive, with the question still ringing in his ears and the rope still holding him to the wood. Maybe that is the only way through. Not deaf to the great questions and not drowned in them, just bound, able to hear the whole unbearable mystery, to long for the answer with everything you have, and to keep rowing anyway without it. But there is one more turn to this, and it is the darkest one, and it comes from a sick young man writing in Prague almost 3,000 years later. His name was Franz Kafka, and in a strange little parable he rewrote this exact scene, and he said that everyone has the sirens wrong. The sirens, Kafka wrote, have a weapon far more terrible than their song, their silence. Imagine it. Imagine you do everything right. You bind yourself to the mast. You steel yourself for the song that will tell you everything. You brace for the most beautiful and deadly sound in the world, and you sail into the strait. And there they are, and they say nothing, nothing at all. You strain against the ropes, waiting for the answer you were promised, the truth about whether any of it mattered, whether you were loved, whether anyone was ever there. And the meadow is silent, and you sail on past the bones into the open sea, never knowing if they had no answer to give, or if they simply chose not to give it to you. You have felt that silence. You feel it at 3 a.m. when you finally work up the courage to ask the universe the only questions that have ever mattered to you, and you lie there, bound to your own mast, listening as hard as you have ever listened. And nothing answers. The men who reached the sirens got their song. They got their answer, every last word of it. Go and look at the shore. If you would rather sail past the great questions with someone than alone, subscribe and stay tied to the mast with me a while longer. We are not turning the ship around. Wait and hope.